All right, let's jump right in. We're looking at a paper today called Agent0, and it's making a pretty wild claim that an AI can actually teach itself to get smarter without any new data from us humans. Now, I look at this and I think this could be a monumental leap forward. But my colleague here is, well, let's just say he's got a skeptic's hat on tight. So today, we're going to break down both sides, starting with the one huge question at the very heart of this.
This question right here, it's basically one of the holy grails in AI research. For as long as we've been doing this, making AI smarter has always meant one thing. You have to shovel in more and more human-made data. It's always been the fundamental limit. But this Agent0 paper, it's claiming they've found a way around that entirely.
So, to really appreciate why Agent0 is so exciting, or at least why I'm so excited, you first have to understand the massive problem it's trying to fix, the AI data dilemma. This is the bottleneck that's holding back the entire field. I think even you'll agree on that. Let's just lay out what we're up against.
Yeah, it's a total brute force approach right now. If you want these models to get smarter, you need bigger and bigger datasets. They have to be high quality, human-curated, and that's incredibly expensive and slow. This isn't just a bottleneck, it's an anchor, chaining the future of AI to the speed and cost of human work. Exactly. And that is what makes Agent0 so radical. It's proposing a way to finally break that chain. The idea is to forget about finding more human data. Instead, you create a kind of internal AI civil war, where two AI agents, born from the same mind, literally force each other to get better. The core concept is just brilliant in its simplicity. You take one AI model and you basically give it a split personality. One half becomes a teacher, constantly inventing new challenges. The other half becomes a student that has to figure out how to solve them. And as the student gets smarter, the teacher has to create even harder problems. The whole system just spirals upwards in intelligence, all by itself.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. I have to jump in here. From zero data? Come on. That phrasing immediately sets off alarm bells for me. That sounds a lot less like a scientific claim and a lot more like a marketing tagline. We need to put a giant asterisk next to that phrase and figure out what zero really means in this context.
And we will, I promise we'll get to that. But first, you have to appreciate just how elegant the mechanism is. This isn't just some random process. It's a really cleverly designed, self-reinforcing loop that the paper calls a virtuous cycle. The paper uses a fantastic analogy here. Just think of it like a teacher and a student. You've got the curriculum agent, that's the teacher. Its entire job is to come up with new problems. Then you've got the executor agent, the student, and its job is simply to master whatever the teacher throws at it. And this is the magic part, the feedback loop. The teacher AI gets rewarded when it finds problems that are right at the edge of the student's ability, not too easy, but not impossible. As the student learns and solves those problems, its ability grows. Well, that forces the teacher to get more creative and generate even more complex problems, which in turn makes the student even smarter. It just keeps going.
Okay, the loop is clever, I'll give you that. It's a neat trick, but you promised we'd circle back to my point, and here we are. Let's talk about this zero data claim, because for me, this is where the entire argument starts to get really shaky. Right, here's the promise versus the reality. The paper claims this whole thing eliminates the need for human annotated data during the self-improvement phase. But the catch? It's a massive catch. Both of these AI agents are spun up from a huge pre-trained language model. In this case, it was a model called QN8B. That model was already trained on a giant chunk of the internet. That's all human data. So to call this learning from zero data is it's disingenuous. It's not starting from a blank slate. It's like saying you learn to walk from scratch when you're already standing on the shoulders of a billion-dollar giant. It's building on a vast foundation of human knowledge that was already there.
You can call it semantics, you can call it disingenuous, but I call it results. Argue about the zero data label all you want. The only question that really matters at the end of the day is, does it actually work? And the paper presents some really compelling evidence that this method produces real, measurable gains. Let's just look at the numbers.
Just look at these charts across 4 different, very difficult reasoning benchmarks. That dark blue bar, that's Agent0. It consistently towers over everything else. It's not just squeaking by the base model it started from, it's demolishing it. The improvement it's just undeniable. And we're not talking about tiny little tweaks here. This is an 18% boost in mathematical reasoning and a staggering 24% boost in general reasoning. Numbers like that tell me this evolutionary loop is creating genuinely new skills,
not just rehashing old data. Okay, fine. The performance gains are impressive, I'll give you that. But this just brings up an even more fundamental problem for me. If there's no new human data coming in, and there's no external answer key, how does the system ever know what's actually correct? Where does the ground truth even come from? Ah, see, that's another really clever part of the design. It doesn't need an external answer key. The student agent just tries to solve the same problem multiple times, but from slightly different angles. Then, the answer that it comes up with most often is treated as the correct one. It creates its own pseudo-label to train itself.
And that is a potentially catastrophic flaw. What happens if the model is consistently, confidently wrong? Majority voting is just going to reinforce its own mistake. It'll become more and more sure of its own flawed logic. You haven't built a virtuous cycle. You've built a high-tech echo chamber where the AI just gets better and better at being wrong.
And on top of that, there's another giant question mark that the paper is completely silent about: the cost. This whole process, 2 agents constantly generating tasks, running multiple attempts on each one, then retraining themselves over and over again, it sounds computationally astronomical. Is this actually an efficient path to smarter AI, or are they just burning a mountain of GPUs to get these results? We have no idea, because they don't say. Okay, so let's try to bring this all together. On one side, we've got a really novel architecture that is showing some seriously impressive results. But on the other, we have some really deep questions about its basic assumptions and hidden costs. So which is it? A breakthrough or an echo chamber?
Look, I still think the case for breakthrough is strong. It's not perfect, maybe, but it's powerful. This is a framework for fully autonomous AI evolution. It creates its own curriculum that automatically gets harder as the AI gets smarter. And at the end of the day, you simply cannot argue with those results. The numbers prove it's doing something right.
And I think the case for caution is overwhelming. The zero data claim is at best misleading. The majority vote system is a recipe for reinforcing bad habits. And we have absolutely no clue what this thing costs to run. These aren't just little details. These are fundamental questions about whether this approach is even viable. Okay, I think we can land on this. Agent0 is a fascinating, genuinely clever architecture, and it's producing some promising results. I can agree with that. But its biggest, grandest claims, especially that from zero idea, absolutely need to be challenged and scrutinized by the rest of the research community. And that really leaves us all with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is what we're seeing here the dawn of a truly independent AI that can improve on its own? Or is it just a much smarter, much more elaborate way for an AI to talk to itself? The answer to that is probably going to shape the next decade of AI development. Thanks for tuning in.